All right, Entree Architect community, it's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for the Entree Architect Context and Clarity live conversation for Thursday, January 20th, 2022. Thanks for joining us today. As you get here, say hi. Let us know that you're here and let us know where you're joining the conversation from. If we've never met before, my name is Jeff. I come here every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern for one reason, so that we can find clarity around the things that matter most to you, the architect. Doesn't matter if you're the employee of a firm or you own your own firm. Maybe you've circled a date on the calendar and you said 2022 is my year and you're on the runway to starting your own thing. Or maybe you have owned your own firm for a year or 10 years or I don't know, 29 years. And you're starting to rethink or reimagine what that firm could or maybe even should be. All of the topics that we cover, one topic every day, they're all the need to know topics for the success of small firm architects just like you. And as usual on these Thursday Context and Clarity live conversations, I'm joined by my co-host, Katharine MacPhail. Hi, Katharine.
Hi, Jeff. How's everything going up over there in Indiana?
It's cold.
Yep.
That's really all I can say.
That's all we can say. Short forecast today. It's going to cold. Yeah.
I was on a call earlier with a group out of Lexington, Kentucky, which is 2.5 hours south of Indianapolis, where I am, and they get hit with more snow yesterday, I think it was. And here in Indianapolis, we have all the wonderful cold of winter and no snow whatsoever. It's just cold and gray. So,
No, I'm not a meteorologist, but doesn't it have to be not that cold for it to snow? I mean, if it's very, very cold, doesn't it not snow? I don't know.
Yeah, but we're not quite that cold.
Oh, okay.
We're not that cold. It was like 4 degrees wind chill this morning. So
That's
it's just
cold. That's cold enough. That's cold enough.
It's cold. It's winter in the Midwest.
I'm just noticing all my dog hair on my black, as we discussed yesterday. And it reminds me, I read today that only 43% of people let their pets sleep in their bed. I don't know what the source is for that, but I thought everybody did. Do you not let your dog sleep in your bed?
Well, it's up to them. We have a herd, so
yeah, but they're allowed to if they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to get a black dog, I guess.
Yeah, you can get all sorts of diseases, I guess, from your animals too, which I hadn't considered. So yeah, I'll report back on that next week.
Okay, we'll have a health check next week.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking around the room and I see that Margarita Nielsen Palacios is the first in on my screen. So as usual, as is our tradition, Margarita, you win the John Kinney Memorial Crocheted Bathtub Award for being the first into the conversation today. Welcome. Now, if the two names first on your screen look vaguely similar, it's because the second name is Christian. It's Margarita's brother. So welcome back, Christian, from Ithaca, New York. Margarita's in South Florida. Scott Thrift is joining us from, looks like Twitch. He says the fog is burning off in San Francisco. Welcome back, Scott. Don Duncan from Northern Indiana. Welcome back, Don. Glad you're joining us today from LinkedIn. Diego's joining us from YouTube, and Ryan from New Jersey over on Facebook. Yoko has gone over to Twitch today. Welcome back, Yoko. Ryan says we have a black dog. He's not allowed on the bed. You just need to have black sheets and things on the bed. And Chris, welcome back from Massachusetts. And everybody else, if you haven't said hi yet, say hi. Let us know when you get here and let us know where you're joining the conversation from. One of the things that's fascinating about this platform right now, we're simulcast to YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. I think I named them all. We at times in real time have people from all over the world joining us, from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States, from Anaheim to Australia is the way that I say it sometimes. So it's fun to see how far this conversation spreads. James Polk is down in Hattiesburg, Mississippi over on YouTube, and John Jones from Westport, Connecticut. Glad that you're here. Looks like everybody is showing up okay, but there are two things that could happen, especially if you're on Facebook. If you're joining us from Facebook, you're inside the Entree Architect Community Facebook group, and that's a private group. Facebook has some rules, some privacy rules that say that your information cannot go outside of that group. So a couple of things that could happen. You could show up as Facebook here on the screen as Facebook user without your name and without your picture. If that is happening, then you need to go to chat.restream.com restream.io/FB, as in Facebook. With a couple of clicks, you can give Facebook permission to let your information out. And you show up just like John Jones does there. If you're commenting and it's showing up in Facebook, but it's not showing up here on the screen, same thing. Go to chat.restream.io/FB, as in Facebook, and a couple clicks, and that should fix that problem as well. So that's a little bit of housekeeping. Again, it's the it's Facebook rules that we we have to follow, and we're happy to follow. And but that little trick should solve the problem. Okay, with that, what else have I missed? I'm sure there's got to be something.
Well, we got the YouTube people again.
Yep. We'll likely have some YouTube trolls pop in. That when you see that, what I would suggest is don't get annoyed at that. Just celebrate that, because when we start getting trolls, everybody.
Oh.
When we start getting trolls, that means we've made it. We've been discovered. So, hi trolls, welcome. We're going to block you, but that's what's going on there.
Well, I did block him, but he's still in the chat stream, so whatever.
That's all right. They'll go away. They'll go away. We're not going to worry about the trolls.
Okay.
It's just the reinforcement that we have finally made it. So we have trolls.
All right. It's kind of like raining on your wedding day. That's, I guess, what they say to make you feel better.
Yeah, to make us feel better.
We made it.
We've made it. We've made it. Hooray!
Yay for us.
All right. With that, I'm really looking forward to this conversation today, because I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that oftentimes there is this perception that architects are not approachable. That architects, there's plenty of stereotypes about architects out there, and I think one of the reasons for those is that we're not engaging with people. They may see our projects, they may hear us speak somewhere, but there's not a lot of close engagement with the general public. One thing that I always wonder is how many of you that are architects right now, before you went to architecture school, had actually ever met an architect. I think it's a problem that we don't have engagement, that we don't have that connection with architects. The general public doesn't have connection with architects. So I'm really interested. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because we're going to talk about engagement on a whole different level. So let me introduce to you right now our guest. Our guest today is the definition of an entrepreneur architect. He's one half of a husband and wife team of entrepreneur architects. Together, they're focused on architecture for everyone. They're parents with a passion for creating and a love of sharing that passion with kids. They've built a creative place for children to explore and learn about architects and architecture. He's a co-owner of Five Architecture in Boca Raton, Florida, and co-founder of Five Archicamp and now Stix Brix. Matt Forget, welcome to Context and Clarity Live.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Katharine. I'm happy to be here and eager to have a fun conversation today.
Well, we're glad that you're here, and we apologize. We realized that we had run out of green M&Ms for the green room, so I think Matt may have been left without any snacks. So sorry about that. That's our tradition with our guests, but we've got for anybody out there that's looking for something to do, we need a new helper to keep the M&Ms stocked in the green room.
Yeah, you have to be easygoing though, unlike our last one.
Our last helper was that easygoing. Okay,
yeah,
that's probably why they left. Would be my guess.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, first of all, we're sorry that Kenia could not join us today. We, as usual, we have crafted a week of these context and clarity conversations around the theme that we talk about on Context and Clarity Live with our guests. So the first thing, the first topic that we had this week was what inspired you to become an architect. So I'm going to ask you that question. Mm-hmm. What inspired you? And I don't want to ask you to speak for Kenia, but if you can share any insights there with husband and wife team, what inspired you to become an architect?
Yeah, no, it's I could probably tell my story, and there are points in my story, the origin of the love for architecture that is very similar to Kenya's. So I'll share that too. But growing up, I grew up as a son of a contractor. I remember many days being on job sites, walking across plywood floors of houses that were under construction. And I think and probably grew a passion at that time for this idea of building and creating. From that 5, 6, 7 year old version of myself, started to see things and understand and realize, well, that's what's behind the wall in my house. And that's how that happens. And it may not have been as specific as understanding fully what those ideas were, but there's those images. I have them as I think about it. And I think that's the beginnings of that love for architecture, or what became a love for architecture. I think it evolved from that to playing in building and creating, and just finding things to build with, whether it be Lego, whether it be stuff that you find outside. And it evolved from that into grabbing the Saturday morning newspaper. And Kenya has the same stories, which is cool to hear, that we would have the newspaper, both of us, probably maybe at the same exact time in our lives. We're drawing the plans or redrawing the plans or creating new versions of those that you used to see in the newspaper, or at least we had here. And you just start kind of exposing yourself to it. You start to look at things. You start to understand those what those elements are. You look at your home in a different way, and it just kind of rolled from that into, well, as soon as they start to offer something in school that caters to that interest, I'll jump into it. And that didn't happen until high school, and it was drafting, it was model building, it was learning about those technical skills that the school systems offer. And that's the love. That's where it happened. And obviously from there on forward is more of a traditional university exposure, study, and ultimately graduate, and then rolling into the profession. But that love definitely was formed and created in those early years. The same age as our children are now is when I can remember those times of being exposed to building, construction, those creative and creations of built elements.
I was listening to it, and many people who tune in to Context and Clarity all the time know that Katharine and I listen to podcasts and read books and things as we prepare for these conversations. So I was listening to you and Kenya talking to Mark LePage on the Entre Architect podcast. It's episode 333 for anybody who wants to check that out. But you mentioned, or Kenya or you or both mentioned the newspaper, getting the plans out of the newspaper. And that was a memory that was locked in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even thought about that for probably decades, but that's exactly what I did. Chicago
Mm-hmm.
Tribune, Sunday morning, pull out the home section, and it has the floor plans of some builders' homes or apartments
Mm-hmm.
or anything, something like that. And to this day, I'll go visit my mom. She's in Atlanta now, and she will have saved those exact things out of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Hey, here's some floor plans of, whatever. And so when you said that, that all came sort of rushing back into my brain, lost as a memory there. But I hadn't thought about that, maybe the origin story for a lot of people. Katharine, did you do that?
We didn't have the floor plans in the paper, but I did look at apartments, and I remember thinking it was $600 for this apartment in Beacon Hill in Boston, which would have been a pretty nice apartment. And that, at the time, it was like, that seemed like a lot of money as a kid. But I would read about them, and I would, I loved reading the apartment listings. Mostly, I don't know, it was just because I wanted to leave my house, but I didn't get any plans.
But that's definitely, I think, an indicator to what exposure or access people have to what we do. That's their experience of architecture.
That's
true. I think that's a good point. We talk about, I don't know how many episodes, how many conversations we've had on Context and Clarity about the public's perception, which is the important perception, right? It doesn't matter what we think. It's when we're talking about clients and, how the public perceives what architects do, the value of architects, all of those things. It's their perception that matters. And I think you're exactly right. They may be pulling out the home section as well, and looking at apartment cost and as it relates to floor plans and all of that as well. So you and Kenia met in school, is that right?
We did, yes. So we met in our undergrad studies time, and kind of linked up in the early phases of university to do all the design classes together, take all of our classes together. And originally we just became friendly and whatnot, and really just started to build our love for architecture as we studied it, as we saw and went to New York City to see the post 9/11 site and go to this location that's near us for a specific project. And you start to do those things. You start to, and today we actually had this conversation about how when you are doing something that you love, that the other person loves as well, you start to interweave a lot of your conversations around that. So it's not at 5 o'clock things, you turn off the lights and the conversation stops. Our interest is so intertwined that the conversation keeps going. And whether it be something we saw not related to work, or something related to work, whether it be the architecture business or the kids' architecture business, we're always talking about it. We're talking about design. We're talking about buildings. We're talking about creating. We're talking about business. And it's a great, I love that we can just bounce all of those things off of each other and have all those conversations. And who better to do it with than your wife? It's great. It's wonderful. I really enjoy it. So I think she'd say the same.
We're missing a couple of years between when you met and when you got married. So what happened there?
So, okay. All right. University happened, and we finally got together at the end of our 4-year degree, and then started to work on our graduate degree and began practicing. So we both started practicing architecture in South Florida at different firms. Mm-hmm. And we both went our way doing our work, and still came back to each other to have those conversations about design, about buildings and whatnot. And not until about 15 years after starting working in the business did we decide that it was time for us to do something for ourselves. And there are many people here that are, we can thank for that, Mark, and the community of Orange Architect, just really pushing the idea of entrepreneurship and doing and creating something for yourself. And we took the leap one day. I still remember the hours before, kind of giving notice of leaving my firm of 15 years. And we had that kind of confidence in ourselves and the vision and the dream of what we wanted our business to be. We said goodbye and then started the firm. And in that time, we did have the kids.
Yeah. When did you get married in there? I need more details.
You need the full timeline.
Yeah. So you were undergrad, and then you got married.
Undergrad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so undergrad,
interesting just because
dating, and then married,
but
while we're both professionals, full professionals doing our,
So you already graduated from graduate school at that point?
We went to graduate school while we were both practicing.
Okay.
So we finished graduate school and then decided, after much waiting on me, to get married.
Okay. So
and we got married and started our family. At the time, we both had our full-time jobs. I continued on working. Kenia began raising the kids, and one became two, and then two became three, and not until we had 3 kids did we decide it was time for us to do something for ourselves. And we, at that point in time, decided, that we want to spend more time together. We want to have a better balance of our time, work, and personal. And then now I can connect the dots. Then we decided to do that. And, we're happily married now for, what year is it now? 12 years soon in a month. And it's been wonderful. And our business journey is only a little bit over 3 years young in the professional sense. The Stix and Brix proportion is a little bit younger than that, as old as the pandemic. And it's been this just amazing journey of like, what do we want to do next? What should we do next? What do we want to do next? And it's just really, we're doing it together, and we're, going through the journey together.
Okay, so this is what Christian asked earlier, which I had up, but then we got kind of sidetracked. How do you manage the combination of married and professional life? And that is from Christian. And I'm kind of interested. I mentioned to you earlier that I worked with my husband at one point, but we don't work together in the same way anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the combination of married and professional life? Are you both registered architects or just you?
I'm registered. Kenia is not. But we both, she is our director of design and our creative soul that is, as a visionary, is a amazing creator. And then I'm the director of architecture. I kind of take the technical side of all of our endeavors, and she really takes the lead on the creative side. So, managing and balancing the married and professional life, there's no line. It's definitely blurred. It's definitely overlapping, and it's definitely something that if it is happening, those two people together, it has to be. Communication is key. Conversation is key. Understanding of roles is key, and so far we're doing a great job with it. It's been really enjoyable. So some people may be naysayers. For us, it works.
Oh no, I'm not a naysayer. Nope. But
No.
Christian wants to know. He's really wants to know. So that's why I'm asking. Can you cook together in the same kitchen? Is what he said, and this was his question this morning. I'm not sure why he wants to know that, but can you cook together?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, this is a question that Christian asked on Clubhouse this morning. And for those of you that don't know, we're on Clubhouse every weekday morning for our half-hour Context and Clarity coffee talks. But we were talking about husband and wife teams working together. And Christian wanted to know if you can cook together, because apparently when Christian cooks, and he loves to cook, everybody has to be out of the kitchen. So Christian is wondering if you and Kenia can cook together.
Right, but also he doesn't work with his wife, so it's not like he works with his wife, but he can't cook with his wife.
This is true.
So he probably also can't work. But anyway, do you cook with your wife?
So in our setup, I am the one that does all the cooking. So there's no conversation to be had. I cook, and
does she help? Does she help you?
Of course, but we have our roles, just like in the business, right? We have our roles. We each know what each other's going to do, and as long as I don't create a lot of dirty dishes when we're done cooking, I step out and she steps in. But and now with the kids, we're starting to let them take care of some of those things for us. So we don't cook together, but we could if we wanted to.
Okay, good to know. Now we can move on, having answered that.
That was very important.
Yeah.
There you go, Christian. So they could if they wanted to. How's that? Well, and you've mentioned the kids, and as part of the journey and everything else. So as I mentioned in the beginning, and you alluded to this just a couple of minutes ago, a couple of years ago at the beginning of the pandemic, of course, things changed for everyone in a whole lot of ways. And somehow, out of things shutting down the pandemic, you created something called ArchiCamp. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So just like everyone else, we saw this like light switch of changing of our lives happening. And we found ourselves with 3 kids under 7, I guess, home with, a spotty, at first home with nothing to do, eventually home with a very spotty distance learning schedule with their school. And we said to ourselves, like, what are we going to do with the kids? How are we going to entertain them? How are we going to maintain what business we had going at the same time? And said, well, this is kind of an opportunity for us to do something that is for the kids and maybe for other kids as well that are in a similar situation. And, Kenia had this amazing kind of vision, this like just kind of, you had those aha moments. And she had this aha moment of us creating this. This is what we need to do. This is how we need to serve both ourselves initially and ultimately many other people, many other children with an activity to keep them busy. And why not give them an opportunity to learn about architecture, our passion, which is something that we didn't get the opportunity to do as children. At middle school age, did we see the newspaper with the floor plans? But before that, there was no exposure to it. And we said, well, what and how can we do this and create something for them? And so we came up with Five Archicamp, which was a spin-off naming of Five Architecture. The five in Five Architecture is resemblant of our family, which is part of our basis of balancing our family and our business, and it's all one. And we created Five Archicamp, and the word camp was one of those that we felt like it was important to give kids an option to have an activity to do or have something that could keep them focused. And in the early stages, it was a multi-day process of building a model, an architectural model, ones that we would build in college. But we were tailoring it to kids that were 7 and up. And they can definitely glue, they can definitely cut. And we figured out a way to create something that hadn't been created before, which was an architectural model building kit for kids. So the model that you spent hours and hours building in college, we've packaged up in a way that they could do it on their own. We had video instruction, and we would walk them through the steps in 1 hour chunks over the course of a few days to go from a bag of parts to a finished architectural model. And that was the origin, that was the original version of it. And it's evolved over the last, as our life has evolved, we've evolved the business. We've learned a lot about making products and what works, what is labor intensive. I mean, we're making all of these ourselves. And, the original, the OG, the original version to the current version and newer versions that we're like photographing tomorrow are very different from each other. But just like business, I think it's amazing to see that evolution of an idea. And it may be the same idea when you look at it from a high level, but it's really been refined. And we've really learned and heard about what our customers, the kids, are looking for and what they want and what was it missing before. So we've learned all of that stuff in 2 years, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
That is really amazing. And I think that's, you think of all the things that have happened in the last 2 years and how quickly things have evolved. If that's the silver lining, I guess that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the beginning, if let's say I signed up for Archicamp because I want to do it, I'm a little older than 7, but I still want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I signed up for camp, what would happen?
So we set up a website, we set up an e-commerce website, and had models or designs. So think about your Lego, right? The Lego has this version, that version, and the other. We don't quite have as many options, but we had our models, we had our designs that we created, and buy the model. We ship it to you at your home. And in obviously in the early stages of the pandemic, there was, people wanted stuff to arrive at their house. Now everybody's relying on Amazon and Amazon delivery and everything else. So it arrived at your home. You didn't have to go anywhere or do anything. You just got it, received it. And then within there were all of the parts that you needed separated by day. We had a 5-day and a 3-day version. So it was when we say the word camp, it was a virtual camp. It was something that you do on your own at your own time. And so you open the box, you have day 1, day 2, day 3. You logged onto our website, and we had pre-recorded videos where we would be showing how to build the model. So we would go step by step, get the piece that's labeled this, put glue on this side, place it here, and take them through. And we chunked it out so that by the time someone kind of got tired of building, kids' attention span is very different than ours, we stopped. and we stopped at logical places within the process so that they had a successful model and they had a successful experience. And then the next day or an hour later, whenever they wanted to, log back on, go to the next day, open the next package, and then you did that until you were at the point where you had the final model. That was the early version, which was with the video instruction. And to today's version now, we've created something that's easier to build, a little bit faster to build, but has more options for customization. So our kits now are dry fit, so they can go together without glue. So all that waiting and holding and those times of possible like impatience that kids may have, you get that instant like gratification of the fitment. And now our new versions have stickers, have different paint options, and a little bit more so that the kids don't have to necessarily follow our mold. Here's the model, you're going to build it. The new version is here's the model, and this is what we wanted ours to look like, but you can make yours look like whatever you want. So, we heard that kids wanted to do things on their own. We were getting pictures of some where kids painted their model, or other different, ways of customizing it. So now we've done that.
So, Christian is full of questions today. So he wants to know who makes the kits, like who actually makes it. So you get it like, oh, you get a little ding from your computer, then you guys have to go start cutting basswood. Is that just you two?
Basically, yeah. In a nutshell, yeah, we have a laser cutter, so we laser cut all the pieces. So there's no need for X-Acto knives or anything like that.
That's good. I was imagining you at the dining room table with the pad and then your knives cutting.
That was the original idea.
Yeah.
I'll cut all of these and we'll package them up. That wasn't sustainable.
Right.
So we designed all the parts and pieces. We cut them and package them up ourselves, and we do all the collateral and everything that goes with it. And it's us.
Well, I like the idea, and also it's nice that you get that feedback loop, right? Oh, kids want to explore it more, do some of their own thing. So I love that you get that feedback loop and you have adjusted to that. And somewhere on your website, you talked about inspiring creativity and exposing kids to architects and architecture. What's again, back to the floor plans in the newspapers, that was our media, I guess, our version of this. What's the importance of inspiring and then letting them explore?
Well, I think that kids are creative by nature. They're inquisitive and curious by nature. And I think there's something to be said for just putting a tangible object in their hands and letting them build. Kids like Lego, my age, children and young and older. I remember having like Tinker, what are those? The little logs.
Toys.
Tinker toys.
Well, those were Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs. There's something to be said for like holding pieces in your hand and putting them together, right? That's that ability to make. And kids are makers by nature. They want to make stuff. They want to create stuff, whether it be a fort, a comic book, something. Like they just want to create stuff. They want to emulate things that they've seen. So putting like the objects of building in their hands, I think that's part of the reason why Lego is so successful, is that they're able to take those ideas that they have in their mind and somehow like quantify them into something that is built. They can't build a building. Let's build a small version of it. And, we're not getting deep into structure. Some of our designs are void of all of the complexities of building that we know, but it just lets them create. It lets them just figure out and see space. It lets them see, planes. It lets them understand balance and style and scale. We have a skyscraper that we're about to release, and it's an enormous scale compared to the A-frame cabin. So like, we're not like telling them what they're learning, but they're seeing it, they're feeling it, they're understanding it. And if anything, that just plants the seed, like the seed that that was planted in us as we explored floor plans, or were on a job site, or just saw things. Right? You see buildings going up and you wonder, because normally when you experience a building, the common public, they're experiencing it when it's done. but experience it as it's being built, right? People love behind the scenes. They like to see how things are created. Like, let the kids create, let them explore. And this morning there was a conversation about customizing. And unfortunately, the way that we've set this up, there's not a way for our product to be like Lego in that you could build your own creation. But there's the opportunity to build anyways, right? You can just build, you can create, you can kind of do something with your hands. So we've seen it to be really successful, and we have done some in-person events recently, and to see the kids actually build in an aggregated format where there are like 10 models being built at the same time, you see like who really likes to paint. And like this child is painting for an hour, and then another one paints like one part of their model and they're ready to build. So you see there that there are different interests. Some are artistic, some are building, some are tinkers. All of that is able to be explored with what we're doing.
I just had an idea for you. So you can have it for free. Okay, so like the teenage version would be just the basswood and the X-Acto blades and the knife. And then like you've graduated now to build whatever you like with this wood, and you cut it with this knife like this. And
I think they've got to sign something before they get that.
That one has great margins.
Right, it does. Saves you a lot of time, right?
Yeah. Kurt says he really loves the idea of Stix and Brix. And so if you're watching this right now, apologies for those of you on the podcast version. You can't see this. You're hearing it in audio only. But in the bottom left of the screen right now is the URL for the Stix and Brix site. So STIX or -Brix, BRIX.com. You can find all these things that Matt is talking about. And Kurt says he's going to order some of these for his nieces and nephews. I want the food truck. I saw that on the website.
The ice cream truck, yeah.
The ice cream truck. I think I'm going to order that for myself. Although I think that might have been a limited edition or something like that.
There are more. And the fun thing about some of these is, well, that isn't necessarily architecture. And it's funny because we built that as a partnership with someone, a local ice cream shop. People loved it. Is it architecture? I mean, it's a vehicle. It's it has space inside. So maybe people loved it. They're like, oh, we love your ice cream truck. We love the ice cream truck. We made a Christmas version. Again, sparking the creativity, right? How do you take this one thing and make it something else? So it's,
it's kind of like the, like airplane models that we used to get when it was rainy in the summer and we'd have to do something. So we go get a model. There's usually airplanes, which I was mildly interested in those. I mean, not really, but I did like painting them.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the glue and just sticking the plastic randomly together. But it's so nice to have something other than airplanes, So thank you.
Seems like you don't want to follow instructions, Katharine.
I also don't read instructions till later, and then I read them. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty cool feature that thing has.
That's the way that was supposed to be. So you've mentioned sustainability, right? Cutting them out yourself, that wasn't sustainable. You talked about margins. So let's dig into business a little bit. When you started this, it was for the kids, right? It was in a way to occupy your own kids, but this has turned into a legitimate business on its own, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're still in the early stages of turning this into the replacement for the architecture firm, because it obviously is much more enjoyable in that we are able to be much more creative for ourselves rather than be creative for someone else. And it's challenging, right? So we're talking about products that have a cost of, or a suggested a retail price of a certain amount, of $50, $60, depending on what it is, and the labor that we're putting into these right now is heavy because we're doing it on such a small scale. So you look at like a Lego that's $50 to $80, $90. Our price point is way below those, but they're doing those in the hundreds of thousands of run, not by hand. So as this scales, we'll have to figure out a way to remove ourselves from the process. so that we can there's not enough physical time to do this. I mean, some of the models actually require 30 or 40 minutes of cutting on the laser because we're doing it at such a small scale. So right now it's really like finding that sweet spot. It's we're really working on finding what is the right way to present this. What do we need? How do we need to present it? And then and we're finding out exactly what that is as we've moved along in the journey. And then at some point we're going to need to kind of take this out to the masses, and hopefully as we get more exposure, our volume is going to increase. A lot of people, they're like, "Oh, I never heard of you. I don't know about it." And it's been nice because we've been able to slowly grow and evolve. And you make a mistake and you can quickly recover on it. Even like little things. And this, from a business perspective, we started with the videos, which took a lot of time to produce. They did create this connection, but it added a lot of time to the back end of our process. So we evolved into our new version of printed instructions. Everybody gets Lego and it can follow illustrations. We were doing printed instructions, actual physical printed instructions. And so, well, why are we printing these? It's a cost to us. Why not give everyone access to the digital version, which cuts our costs down and also allows us to make a modification if we need to down the road and not have to throw away 100 books because they're outdated. So all of those little things, those little notches in our belt, we've been creating and figuring out. And I really think that it's for a reason, because as this grows, we're going to know and have made all the mistakes already.
That's a great idea. You know what I love? I don't love this pandemic or anything about it, but one thing I do like is I homeschooled my kids because of various reasons, and everybody kind of made fun of me and said, like, I would never do that. But now that everybody had to, they share their own sets of passions with the kids. So there are all these different things. There are all these way more opportunities now for kids, and these kits that come in the mail. Kids love, love, love getting mail. Yep. Right. So having these subscription boxes that are science boxes or experiments or, these your boxes, I think that's a great thing that's come out of all of this, having to stay at home.
I agree. Definitely. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. It's just fun. I think we should all share. I mean, kids, I think, are way under, people just think they can't really do all that much, but they actually can. They are very creative, and, I'm sure they love it.
No, and look at sports. And I'll use an example that we've experienced this year, as one of our children was in baseball at like 7 years old. Sorry about that. At 7 years old, this baseball league is so intense. And I was amazed by the level of competition. And I'm like, these kids are 7. Like, they have 7 years of life under them. And, it's just mind-boggling to me how advanced they can get at that age.
Yeah.
We have art classes. We have music classes. We have all of these opportunities for kids to be exposed to all of the things that we enjoy in life.
Mm-hmm.
Our business is excluded from that. And maybe it goes back to like what you said, Jeff, earlier in the beginning, was about us not being approachable and us not engaging. Mm-hmm. And I see and feel that our industry, with all of, and thanks to a lot of what you all are doing, is like opening the doors, peeling back the curtain, and letting people like just kind of see what we do and understand how we do what we do, the challenges of it, and just let them just kind of understand us a little bit more, and at the same time also be more of a listener than a talker, so that we can just hear people and listen to them, and them not feel intimidated by the black shirt and the black pants and that like stereo. Oh yeah.
We're all of us wearing black. So
this is blue, just for the record.
It's pretty black.
But I think at some point, if enough of us make ourselves available to others, and we can share more, we will gain some traction in that regard, and have programs, have opportunities, and people are doing it. But I think at some point it needs some more fuel for a lot more people to kind of catch on and understand it.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think, again, we're pulling floor plans out of the home section in the, whatever the local paper is. And you fast forward to 2020, I guess, when you started this, and whether one of these kids goes on to become an architect doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It just doesn't matter. But as you said, it fuels their creativity. It lets them explore. They may become an architect. That's fantastic. I think they may become more aware of their surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. They may become more aware, as you said, a skyscraper. A lot of times we don't see these things. I spent a lot of my growing up in Chicago, and yeah, you walk down the street and they've got the construction fences. You can't. They do have the little holes where you can kind of peek in
Mm-hmm.
and see what's going on. But if you're not tall enough, you can't see what's going on until this thing basically becomes a building.
Huh. That's a good idea. They should make lower windows for kids.
Yeah,
you should write to someone about that, Jeff, so that they can appreciate the buildings a little more. Anyway,
there's
sorry.
a secret. If you take a knife, you can make your own, but that would be vandalism.
That would be the X-Acto knife.
That
comes with
knife.
Your
That's the X-Acto knife that came in the kit. Exactly. So I think this is, maybe they become a client of some architect in the future that has some awareness of, how these things go together. I mean, all of that on every level, I think, is super important for, for the profession and for the public as it goes forward. So I love this idea, and I love the idea, back to the business of you alluded to this as well, of this business taking over or maybe eclipsing the actual architecture. The 5architecture.com, by the way, is the URL for Kenia and Matt's architecture firm, 5 Architecture, if you want to check that out. So you alluded to the fact that this may hopefully eclipse the architecture side at some point. Do you have, whatever you feel comfortable revealing, do you have specific plans going forward on how this thing scales? I know you said you're doing some in-person events, and I saw on your website you've got something coming up. I think on February 12th is an in-person event. What's the future of this look like?
There is no written plan yet for how we see this happening. I think that we've taken this kind of approach, and it's been nice to do it this way, where it's not right now a have to. So it's allowed us to explore a lot of things without the pressure of sales, without the pressure of, we've got 100 of these things sitting on the shelf and they've got to move. So we've really taken our time to make sure that the quality of what we're doing is high, so that we can be proud of, and the people that are building these buildings, ultimately the kids are putting them on their shelf in their room and are proud of what they built, and maybe grow that passion for it. So there's no master plan for this other than, let's get it big. Let's get as many people exposed to it as we can. Let's let as many people see it as possible. And we started selling them in person, like at markets and things like that. And it's amazing to see how many people have said, I've never seen anything like this before. Again, our architecture world is very closed door. Nobody sees an architecture model, especially one made out of wood, unless they had, a couple $100,000 to build one for their multi-million-dollar commercial building. So people haven't seen it before. And then immediately they kind of go down and they start to look inside and they start to peek inside. And for us, that's like the most amazing feedback, is these people are kind of enamored by what they're seeing. A, because they haven't seen it before, and B, because they start to do what we did as kids, which was picture ourselves in that floor plan. They're like, and kids will do this in their pretend play, is this is my bedroom, and we have stickers now of beds and TVs and all these things for them to outfit their spaces. You imagine yourself in that area or that space. Ours is built models. This morning people were talking about, the digital version, right? The video games where kids are creating 3D spaces. So they're starting to create space in a visualized manner at a young age right now. At some point, we can't lose sight of that tangible part of it, building with your hands. But kids are understanding the scale. Kids are understanding the space. Kids are understanding, creating volumes to occupy. They do it every day. Now they can create it for themselves. They know what they like. They know what they want. They want this cool thing up here and this other part over there. So that is, they're building a product, but they're also getting an experience. And the experience is them playing with their model or their toy, if you want to call it a toy. So
I love that. It reminded me, you were talking about 100 of these sitting on the shelf that have to move, right? I don't remember how many weeks ago it was now, but we had Laura Teagarden on as a guest back in 2021. It's safe to say that. And she has published now 3 books, I think it is. And we got into talking about the publish on demand, I guess. And there's got to be a version of that for you. You mentioned before, you've got to take yourself out of the process, which I think is absolutely critical for you. But there's got to be a sort of a print on demand. That's the word I should have used, print on demand. There's got to be a print on demand version of this for you somehow. I don't know how that works, but
I mean, we're doing it now. So we are printing, laser cutting the models as needed. But with any business, you need to start to accumulate some of your products, your elements of your product in volume. So we have paint pots. We're buying them by the 100, paint brushes. So you start to make some investments, and if you overinvest and change course, you have a lot of material that's waste, which cuts out on any profits that you made on the ones that you sold. So it's been this really interesting lesson to us in sourcing materials, in finding that right amount of what to hold and what to have. And then, throw in right now, supply chain. And it's like, what do you mean we're not going to get acrylic for 2 weeks? We need acrylic to cut these models that someone just ordered. So that adds to the challenge as well. So, it's one of those things, do you stock up for winter, or do you kind of wait and see what happens and hope that you have what you need when the snowstorm comes and you're stuck in your house or a hurricane for us, right?
Right. Same thing. A lot of things blowing around.
Yep.
There are a couple of questions I don't understand. I mean, I'm just going to keep asking the ones that I don't understand. Are you the Bob Ross of architecture? I don't know why he even said that this morning, but you were there, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't remember my exact comment. It was something about a pretty little tree or something.
That must have been it. Yeah,
like that. And if kids have that aura of them while they're building their models that Bob Ross brings to you when you watch him paint, then I mean that's a win in my book. But
yeah, for sure.
Everybody knows him, right? Everybody knows the mood that he creates with his painting and his technique and his tone. If kids, some kids are need an activity to kind of ground them.
Hey.
And if it's painting, our daughter loves to paint, and we'll give her, a model and a thing of paint, and she will just zone out. The second she puts the paintbrush down, she might be running wild with her brothers, but there's something about art, about creativity that changes your mood, whether it be, and it could be music, it could be painting, it could be building. All of those things I think are a mood changing element. And if, children find solace in building a model, then call us Bob Ross.
You could have your own show. You don't even have to send out the models anymore, or you could, and then you're just on there as Bob Ross. Your face could be on socks and everything in 40 years or something. And but you're just telling them you're on the show, your own show, saying this is what you do next, and you have kids there with you who are maybe doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, PBS, take a spot or something, I guess.
Yeah, like the Zoom, that'd be like a Zoom do kind of, but the whole show would be like the Zoom do. Do you guys know what I mean by the Zoom do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm old enough.
Show. I think.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you could, it could even be something on your own YouTube channel for that matter.
True.
Yeah.
In this day of making our own TV shows.
Yeah, it could be broadcast live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now.
Yeah,
Trolls included
on Thursday.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think it's pretty great. Just having fun making models. Making models is fun. I got these. There were these 3 pieces of chipboard on my island today, and I was like, "What are these for?" And I immediately thought they were for making a model or something. And my husband just looked at me really weird, like he had cut out these chipboard things for me, but it was just pieces from the cat cat food dividers. It turns out
and
I
then
was
you
so
were so
touched.
disappointed.
I know. I thought that's so nice that you cut those out for me to make a model today.
Send
Anyway,
them
making
to us
models
to
is
laser
fun.
cut them for you.
Yeah. We just don't get to do, most of us don't get to do it anymore, I find.
Yeah.
And I love doing, I'm going to order some myself and I'm going to make them. And I know my daughter who loves to make the Lego stuff, she would love to make them too. So she's 17, but putting stuff together, painting it, making a little village. So Christian asked before if they were all the same scale. Can you have them be a neighborhood?
Well, yeah. So we've done a couple of things. We've really worked hard to keep the format to the same. So all of our bases are on a 6x12 module. So you could, if you are an avid Stix and Brix consumer, you could take all your models and line them up next to each other and have this village. Our our smaller scale models are all 1/4 inch, so they are just scaled to each other. And then our urban scale is the same. It's a little forced. Again, like I said, we can kind of play with things a little bit because we're not fixed on the real world of some elements. So we have some forced scale on some of the taller models, but they are the same scale. And that's something kind of cool to look at, the single story versus the 2-story versus a 1.5 story model. What does that do? How do you see the building? Again, kids are seeing things, but not necessarily understanding that they're starting to realize scale, elevation, height, proportion, relationship of spaces, all kind of subconsciously through the play.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have the first annual Entre Architect annual meeting.
Oh, yeah.
This fall. I think, hint, I think this needs to, there needs to be a Stix and Brix activity at the Entre Architect annual meeting where we all get together and build
a model together.
Yeah.
Oh, competition, someone just said.
Yeah. I call the ice cream truck. Sorry, everybody.
Well, you have to invent a new. You have to invent a new one, Jeff. That's the point. You don't just make one of his models.
Taco truck.
Taco truck.
And maybe dinner tonight too.
That's true. You could do a whole line of those because they have all different food trucks. You could have them in the neighborhood. I mean, I can see if it were me, I would be wanting to buy them, and I were a kid. Actually, if I'm just an adult, I would want to buy them and make the whole a whole neighborhood because was like the Barbie townhouse. I didn't care for Barbies, but I loved the townhouse idea. Never got one. But, and then having the dollhouses without scale, things were really upsettingly not in scale for the dollhouse. So I love that all your stuff is the same scale.
Yeah. The architect in us keeps to some rigor and order.
I would hope so.
Just can't help it. What's the thickness of the material? Is that the thickness of a wall? Yes. Okay,
right.
good.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh boy. Well, and here in Indianapolis, we have a thing called cluster truck. You have to be careful how you say that.
Dear. Yeah.
But you can have an event and the food trucks show up. And so you have all kinds of
Yeah. And, so everybody could create their own design, paint job, awning, whatever. I mean, it's
yeah. And then if there are any that you liked, you could take the design and give us $5 or something.
Yeah. I mean, give you an extra. Go get one.
Just get one for free.
Edition.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, you're gonna have to sign a waiver because with the X-Acto blades, Entre Architect's not going to be responsible for
X-Acto blades.
No, we'll cut everything. We laser cut it, and you take the knife out of it, even though Katharine wants a knife.
Yeah, see, there's some tension here.
I let my kids have those X-Acto knives from when they were probably like 5.
I think
do you still have the tips of your fingers?
I do, yeah. They don't. Yeah.
We're learning more than anybody ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
It takes you back.
It does.
It does. This has been really fun. I love what you're doing. I love the Stix and Brix. So everybody go to stix-brix.com with X's, stix-brix.com, and check that out. There's a few tabs up at the top for events and the products and everything else. Go go check it out. Like Kurt said, order it for your niece and nephew. I think that was code for Kurt's ordering these to play with himself. Katharine finally admitted that she's actually going to order these for herself.
Finally.
I'm getting the ice cream truck. So check all that out. It's fascinating. I love the idea of, this type of engagement. And I encourage everybody out there to think about, we did this, was yesterday was our context and clarity conversation topic was how can you, sort of a brainstorming session, how can you engage in a hands-on way with clients, with community, with kids, just like is happening through Stix and Brix and everything that Kenia and Matt have going on. So that's the challenge for everybody. Keep brainstorming that. There's something that you can do. It doesn't have to be kids, right? It can be something else. I think it's really important for the future of the profession. So, Matt, thanks. Really appreciate this conversation today.
Thank you guys very much for the opportunity to share. And it's been fun. It's been a joy. Thanks to you guys for all you're doing for the profession as well. It's inspiring and empowering, and a voice is huge, and the platform you've set up to give us all a voice, I think, is wonderful. And if anybody wants new models, we do have 2 new designs that are getting photographed tomorrow. So just stay tuned. And you can follow us on social too to keep up with the latest and greatest stuff. And any ideas, shoot us an email. We're always creating, and it's fun to kind of hear what everybody likes, what people are attracted to, and we're all ears. So thank you.
I love your trees, the way you make trees and the different models. They're pretty awesome too.
Oh,
like you got the wheat shoots, and then you got the kind of floaty things, and
that is the crisscross. Yep.
And the crisscross. Yep. Yeah. Good work. And little tufts of I am going to ask I will report in the backstage which one my daughter chose, and we'll order it this afternoon.
Excellent.
Awesome.
I know she'll want one.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Matt. And for all of you out there in our live audience, thank you. Thanks for this conversation. Thanks for all your questions and comments. As always, it's been fun, great questions and great side conversations going on here. We appreciate each and every one of you. And for our trolls out there, thank you for helping us make it. Thanks for putting us on this pedestal wherever it is. And those of you listening on the podcast version, thanks for listening. If you haven't heard this yet, we have a brand new format for the podcast. It just came out today. The Michael Gerber episode was published on Tuesday of this week. And so I think that puts us about 3 weeks from the time we're live till the time the podcast comes out. I'm really thrilled with this new format. It combines our backstage conversation with our live conversation. I think it's super interesting. So you get not only the expert information, this conversation with Matt as a for instance right now, but you also get the takeaways. You also get the applications that we all found from the conversation. So check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. Michael Gerber is out this week, which means Jennifer Castenson should be out next week, which means that Amanda Hennessy will be out the week after that, and Matt will be out. I guess that would make it 4 weeks from Tuesday. So check that out. Let us know what you think about the new format, and appreciate all of you. We'll be live again tomorrow on the Clubhouse app at 9 a.m. Eastern. This Friday, tomorrow, will be another of our mystery member spotlights. So on Clubhouse, it'll be a get to know you session, and then at 4 p.m. Eastern, have to say it, same bat time, same bat channel inside the Entree Architect Community Facebook group, we'll have our mystery member spotlight. Who will be the member that we spotlight tomorrow? The guessing begins at 4 p.m. Eastern. So join us if you can at 9 a.m. Join us if you can at 4 p.m. Otherwise, please take care of yourselves. Be well. Be safe. Find some time to breathe tonight and relax, and some way to rejuvenate, because we're going to go right back at it again tomorrow. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you, and I hope that I'll see you somewhere sometime soon.